Well. Las Vegas, Nevada, right? How is BCTGM doing this morning? Oh, I didn't hear you. How you doing this morning? Are you union strong? No, we can do better than that. You know, I know you were probably gambling last night and partying a little bit, but we are here to make our voices heard and to fight back every single day. Are you union strong? I'm just coming out of a convention in Boston, Massachusetts, an AFSCME convention where we had 5,000 leaders coming to Boston to talk about the challenges that confront us. And so we did a little exercise in Boston, Massachusetts, because we've got to understand where we have been before we understand where we have got to go. How many of you remember the movie Norma Ray? You remember that? Well, we're going to do a Norma Ray exercise because we are union strong and we are union proud, right? So, union! A little excitement in the house. I want to bring greetings on behalf of 1.6 million members of AFSCME who provide public services to you and to our communities across the country. Proud members of AFSCME. What a great honor it is to be here with all of you. You know, it's absolutely wonderful to be in Las Vegas in August. 105-degree heat. It is really inspiring. You know, we had our convention here 2 years ago. It was a little warmer, it was 115, so you're getting a break. You're getting a break. We had our convention here and it felt just like this, a little warmer. But you know, you get that cool ocean breeze, right? So it really doesn't bother you that much. Who was here Sunday night? Anybody here Sunday night? My wife and I got in from Washington. No, I'm not. It was Saturday, actually. We got here Saturday. We were sitting outside at a restaurant in the evening. All of a sudden, I looked up, and there were dark clouds that were rolling in. There was a sandstorm. Do you remember this? I mean, I'd never seen anything like it, and I've been to Vegas in a long time. And they rushed us inside saying, you can't eat out here anymore. You got to go inside with that sandstorm. Well, you know what that was? It wasn't a sandstorm. It was your union and AFGE. They are here, and they are raising hell. You are raising hell every single day in our communities across the country. It wasn't a sandstorm. I want to thank your president, President Durkee, for those kind words. He read them just like I wrote them. Told him to speak truth to power. I want to thank him for showing the way during this moment. He is a good friend and a strong ally. We work together very, very closely. You know, this moment demands unprecedented levels of solidarity. With all of our unions, we have all got to stand together. So I want to congratulate President Durkee for standing up and making his voice heard. I also want to congratulate him because it's my understanding he got reelected. Is that right? He got reelected. Along with your Secretary-Treasurer, Steve Bertelli. Give them a round of applause for their commitment and their dedication that they show to not only this union, but to the American worker every single day. All right. You know, I want to cut right to the chase, sisters and brothers. The all-out war that's been declared on working people all over this country is as ruthless and as relentless as I've ever seen. And I've been with the union movement now for over 40 years. Started off when I was 6 years old. Didn't have any child labor laws back then. Can you believe that? Huh? You know, the billionaires and the wealthy elites care about one thing. They care about one thing only: rigging the economy so they can keep getting richer, have more power and wealth at the expense of all of us and working families across the country who are struggling every single day to get by. We see it when the Congress passes a $1.5 trillion tax cut, with 1/3 of those benefits going to the top 1% in our society. We see it in the business model of Nabisco Mondelez, shutting down American facilities and offshoring your jobs, jeopardizing your health care, and trying to steal your pensions. All while the CEO pulls down, and I get this, I'm sure you probably know this figure, a cool $42 million a year. That's how much he makes. We see it when retirement security is becoming a dream in this country and not a reality. When pensions are at risk in the public and private sectors. But sisters and brothers, let me be real clear on this, and I believe you use this as a slogan. You've earned it, you deserve it, and you fight like hell for your pensions every single day. Those are yours. And we see it in a case just decided by the United States Supreme Court about a month ago. It's called Janus versus AFSCME. Council 31, our affiliate in the great state of Illinois. In a 5-4 ruling, the court overturned 41 years of precedent to make the entire public sector in this country right to work. Because of their ruling, the entire public sector is right to work. Now, this is a vicious attack on people who've devoted entire careers to providing professional public services that strengthen their communities. Teachers and firefighters, EMTs and librarians, corrections officers and sanitation workers. It's a shameless attack on their freedom to build power together and in solidarity, their freedom to negotiate together for a fair return on their work, their freedom to stand together in a strong union. Now, the plaintiff in this case was a guy named Mark Janus, an Illinois state employee who claims that the requirement to pay fair share fees violated his constitutional rights. That was the claim. But we know the truth. All of us can see through that smokescreen. We know how this case got to the Supreme Court and who wrote the checks. It's the privileged and powerful class who want to stick it not only to union members, but working families all over this country, who want to burn AFSCME and the whole labor movement to the ground. They don't want to hurt us. They want to take us out of the ballgame completely. Make no mistake about it. The Janus case was brought by corporate special interests, for corporate special interests to pad the wallets of corporate special interests. It's as simple and as plain as that. And their agenda has nothing to do with the First Amendment, nothing to do at all. They're not making a legal argument. They're launching a political attack on our unions and all of us. What motivates them isn't freedom of speech. It really is contempt for working families. You know what happened a few weeks ago after the case was decided? The individual who brought the case, Janice, who was funded by the Right to Work Committee and the Koch brothers, organizations such as those individuals wanting to take us out, he retired. He retired from a state job. He was not a member of AFSCME, but he had to pay that agency fee. Now, of course, he'll get a pension. He'll get a good state pension because his union negotiated that pension and fought for that pension, even though he didn't pay one thin dime for that pension. Now he's going to work for one of these organizations that will continue to push not only right to work in the public sector because they've won that battle, but now they're moving on to the private sector. And sisters and brothers, I want to tell you this, if we aren't careful, and if we don't get smart, and if we don't strategize and plan and work together, sooner or later, this entire country will become right to work in the public and in the private sectors. The court's decision in the Janice case poses the biggest challenge my union has ever been faced with. But if our enemies think we're going to roll over, they think this is going to slow us down or shut us up. They think one court case is going to decide the fate of the labor movement. They are in for a big, big surprise. 5 men in black robes on the Supreme Court. They do not determine our fate. We do. We do. We do. They don't get to write the next chapter of our story. We do. But we've got to come together like never before. So in the face of this challenge, we aren't cowering in retreat. We are preparing for battle. That's what all of us must do. We are emboldened and inspired, showing resiliency and loyalty, more defiant and more determined than ever before. In the weeks since the Janice decision, AFSCME members have been stepping forward to say simply this: I value my union. I love my union, and I'm sticking with my union. That's what AFSCME members are saying. That's what you must say every single day. That is who we are. We are the labor movement. As we prepare ourselves for the battle ahead, we draw strength and we draw courage from allies like you. You're in the foxhole with us. If ever there were a moment when we all need to lock arms, all of us collectively, lock arms in solidarity, this is that moment. There's an old saying, sisters and brothers, you know it. An injury to one is an injury to all. There can't be any daylight between us, not even an inch. This is our fight. This is our struggle together. When AFSCME members are hurting, it has a reverberating effect, not only on our members and our communities, but on you. It means public service workers have less purchasing power to buy cookies and crackers and other goods that support your jobs. And when public sector unions are under siege, it means that the services in your community are likely, very likely, to suffer. Because when we go to the bargaining table, we don't just advocate for ourselves, we fight for stronger schools, better hospitals, safer streets, and a whole lot more. Now, public sector unions were the primary target in Janus, but they're coming after all of us. They're coming after all of us. This is a plan. This is a strategy that has been in effect for many, many, many years, and it's coming to fruition. Their goal is to decimate the middle class in America, and their strategy for achieving that goal is to peel us off, to drive a wedge between us, to pit us against one another. Private sector worker versus public sector worker, building trades versus all of us. That's what they want to do. It's about dividing and conquering. But we're not going to let that happen, are we? Because we're going to show up. We're going to show up in every community across this country when you have a fight and a battle. That is our fight. And that is our battle. When we have a fight and a battle, that is your fight. It is your battle. I want to commit to you this. AFSCME will always have your back because I know that you will always have ours. That's the relationship. That's the relationship that exists. You know, it's like Benjamin Franklin once said, we must all hang together or we will hang separately. And we can't hang separately. This powerful show of solidarity was on display this past April in Memphis, Tennessee. You saw the video. Leaders of your union were there. They traveled to Memphis because they understood that important part of American history when 1,300 African-American sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968 went on strike. They not only went on strike for better wages and benefits and to have their union recognized, Local 1733 of AFSCME, but they went on strike for dignity and respect. 50 years ago, those brave sanitation workers stood up to a segregationist mayor, and they walked off their job. They were protesting poverty wages, degrading working conditions, and also, and I've got to be honest with you, straight up racism. They were tired of being called boy, of working in essentially an urban plantation. They wanted the city to recognize their union. But more importantly, they wanted the city to recognize their humanity. For them to go on strike in 1968, just think about it. Think about the fear that they must have felt. Think about their concern for their family members, their concern for their jobs. But they stood up, sisters and brothers, and they made their voices heard. And they carried those signs, and you're familiar with those signs. You saw them in the video. Those signs simply said this: I am a man. So this year, we launched an initiative called I Am 2018 to celebrate these fearless men, to honor their legacy, and lift up their sacrifice. We also wanted to pay tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who understood the connection between labor rights and civil rights and human rights and economic rights. Those rights are entwined. You can't treat them separately. And that expression of solidarity ultimately cost him his life, supporting that strike in Memphis, Tennessee. I Am 2018 is a reminder that civil rights and labor rights and human rights are really one and the same. It's a reminder that economic justice can't be separated from racial justice. It's a reminder of both the progress we've made and the work all of us still must do. It isn't just a reflection on the past. It is a source of renewal for our future. It's about answering the bell right now, connecting the Memphis story to the challenges that confront all of us today. Sisters and brothers, what happened in Memphis on April 4th of this year was not just a commemoration honoring what happened 50 years ago. But sisters and brothers, it has got to be a call to action for today and tomorrow. A call to action to keep fighting poverty and prejudice. A call to action to defend the freedom of all working people. A call to action to organize, educate, resist, and persist. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? A call to action, sisters and brothers. I Am 2018 is much more than speeches or having a few events. It must be a mobilization effort all across this country. It's about taking direct action. It's about training organizers and activists to make changes in their own respective communities, neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, door to door. I Am 2018 is part of what I call a movement moment. A movement moment that's igniting us all across this country. You know, everywhere you look in the labor movement, but also far beyond, we're seeing a spontaneous surge of energy for freedom and justice. Everywhere you look, there's a sense of awakening. There is a sense of empowerment. People are answering this call to action in cities and states all across this country. They're fed up with the status quo and fired up to do something about it. With elections in less than 3 months, they are demanding accountability from their politicians. That's what we must do. We must hold them accountable to support the issues that confront working families. They're looking for new leadership that summons the very best American values. Leadership that breeds respect instead of stoking resentment. When I talk about this movement moment, I mean a women's march that attracted more than 1 million people around the world. That is a movement moment, sisters and brothers. As a matter of fact, as a result of that march and continuing activism, 34,000 women across this country have expressed interest in running for office at the local, state, and federal level. That is a movement moment in action. That's what's happening to this country. Look at what happened with the teachers and the educators in some of the reddest of states: Arizona, West Virginia, Oklahoma. They walked off the job. They went on strike, not just for better wages and benefits and to be treated fairly, but they walked off the job to support those kids, to support public education. This is a movement moment, sisters and brothers. A movement moment. We can do this. Fast food. Fast food workers standing up to say that They deserve $15 an hour and a union. This is a movement moment. We've got to link these movements together. Students protesting gun violence and marching for their lives, teaching the adults a thing or two about activism, about passion, about energy. People raising their voice to say that we need a humane immigration system that doesn't separate mothers and fathers from their children. This is a movement moment. What we must do is link arms, the labor unions, with this movement moment. We had a movement moment of our own last week when the citizens of the state of Missouri told those legislators they could go straight to hell, and they got rid of right to work in that state. That is a movement moment. We can win, sisters and brothers, if we put our minds to it. A movement moment. Sisters and brothers, the movement moment is a powerful force. But I've got to be honest with you. It's not guaranteed to succeed all of the time. It requires all hands on deck, all of us in the fray, and on the very top of our game. We can't afford to sit on the sidelines. We can't afford to bury our heads in the sand. That's why your theme of this convention is so important. This is a time for urgency. This is not a time for complacency. This is a time for action. This is not a time for apathy. Sisters and brothers, this is our time, and it's a time for all of us to rise up, to rise up. At our convention in Boston, those 5,000 leaders in that great city decided to rise up, not only in Boston, but to take it back to their communities across the country and spread the message that if you take the labor movement on and you take our community partners on and our coalition partners, then you're going to have one hell of a fight on your hands. Because you can't mess around with our wages and benefits, retirement security, health care without that fight. And we've all got to understand that this is a battle. It is a fight. But let me tell you something. If I'm in a foxhole and I'm involved in that battle, I can't think of anyone I would prefer being with than David and your union and the American labor movement and working families standing up and fighting back and making their voices heard. Are you ready to rise up, sisters and brothers? Are you ready to rise up and lead this movement moment? Will you rise up to meet our challenges, to confront injustice, to change our country? Will you rise up to organize? Will you rise up and educate? Will you rise up and resist? Will you rise up and persist? If you do that,